Devils come to this world to help humans fulfill their wishes, but in return, humans will have to trade their lives after 10 years. This gang boss is one of them. 10 years ago, he signed the contract with the desire to have a rich life. Today is the deadline for him to return his soul. The devil will take his life as promised. Johi is the female director of the Misa Food Company. Although she has been through many blind dates, she still hasn't chosen a suitable guy. Today, her mother continues to arrange another blind date. Although she tries every way to avoid it, it seems difficult this time. Miss Kim Jun forces her daughter to go, otherwise she will not let the doctor check her health. Because she is worried about her mother, Johi reluctantly complies, even though she doesn't want to get married yet. Immediately after that, Johi goes to a luxury restaurant according to the address her mother sent. As soon as she enters, she immediately mocks the guy for still reading paper newspapers in this day and age. At the same time, she says that she only came here because she had no choice. But when Google reveals his face, Johi immediately lowers her voice. She is a little fluttered by this guy's handsomeness. Google is not inferior, he responds to her previous words coldly. The reason he is sitting here is not for a blind date. He is just booking this entire restaurant to have a truly private meal. But Johi didn't know she had come to the wrong address and thought Google was the target. This fateful moment is a destiny that heaven has arranged for both of them later. Johi gives her business card to Google to see. At the same time, she also wants to know who Google's identity is. In fact, he is a devil but has been blending in and living with humans for hundreds of years. And now he is the director of a long-standing investment devil. On the patronage of Dao hot traditional opera, traditional dancers, Google also wonders why the two have a meeting today. Johi makes it clear that this is a blind date, we have been match-made, but Google doesn't understand what Zem Mat blind date means in this context. Did the gods matchmake you to come here to Zem Mat me? Johi laughed at what he said, but she found this strange guy interesting. At that moment, a gang of thugs came in looking for Google to settle the score, and at the same time Johi asked to leave first. The leader flicked away the cake, and it accidentally flew straight towards Johi, but luckily Google quickly helped her dodge and caught the cake in his hand. This moment made her flutter again. She thought to herself, I didn't expect this cold guy to be so polite. Is this the legendary ideal man? Immediately after that, she felt embarrassed, so she asked to go to the restroom. Inside, Johi smiled to herself and thought that this guy wasn't so bad after all. On the contrary, Google just wanted to catch the cake because he didn't want it to be ruined, simply because this is his favorite food. At that moment, the leader came and ruined Google's meal, because yesterday he had taken the life of their gang leader. Han crushed Google's favorite cake in front of him, making him furious. Inside, Johi kept thinking about the moment earlier. She didn't expect that she would also be fluttered by a guy. Just thinking about it made her face flush, which made her very embarrassed. She even thought that Google had prepared that cake just for her. Outside, Google began to deal with each of them one by one. He trapped the leader inside the newspaper, but the others looked horrified when they witnessed this scene. One after another, the others were also trapped inside. In just a moment, he made them disappear with just a snap of his fingers. When Johi came out, she saw that the cake had been ruined. She wondered why he would do that to her birthday cake. He said, "Why is your birthday related to me?" Hearing this made her lose interest. What she thought before was just a dreamy prospect. Then Johi asked to leave when she no longer felt happy inside. Google then entered the restroom. He threw the newspaper into the toilet room. With a snap of his fingers, they reappeared, a pile of people lying on top of each other in a tiny room. On the way back, Johi wondered why her mother found such a trashy guy. Who knows? Looking at the advertising sign of her family's corporation, one of the model corporations of Korea, but who knows that internal strife is going on inside. In fact, Johi is just Kim Jun's adopted daughter, but to her, she's no different from a biological child. Johi is the person that her mother loves the most in the family, because she never thinks about the fortune that she holds. In contrast, her biological children are different. Every time it's Jun's birthday, they seem very happy. Not to come to celebrate her mother's birthday. It's just simply that with each passing year, her mother will get older and they hope she will die sooner. Only then can they inherit this corporation. Kim Jun knows that very well, so she only trusts her adopted daughter, Johi, to the point that when the whole family takes pictures without her presence, she doesn't want to take them. She has to wait for Johi to come without fail. Seeing her, the smile on her face becomes more radiant. Back to reality, Johi goes to the hospital where Kim Jun is lying. Seeing her mother lying motionless on the bed, she looks extremely panicked. Johi sits next to her mother crying and begging her not to leave her. She turns and asks her daughter what she is doing. Mom only closed her eyes for a bit, and you're already making a fuss. Johi immediately rebukes her for daring to joke like that earlier. She called her urgently not because of her illness, but because she wanted to surprise her because today is her birthday. Here, Mrs. Jun asks Johi about the blind date, but she doesn't want to mention that trash's name anymore. She thinks he just has a pretty face. So Mom was startled because she had chosen an ugly guy for Johi. She took the picture of that guy for her to see. Here she realized she had a blind date with the wrong person. At the same time, the secretary came in and said that the matchmaking service manager had sent the wrong address. Hearing this, Johi tells herself that she must have lived in the army in her previous life. Immediately after that, Secretary Dejun calls Google to apologize to him for what happened today on behalf of Johi. She wants to pay for that meal to help him as an apology. But Google immediately says no and hangs up. Mrs. Jun wonders why that young man answered so curtly. She always wants Johi to find a good guy. She wants to see her most beloved daughter be happy. After that, Mrs. Jun lights a candle for Johi to make a wish. The thing she wants most at this moment is to see her mother live forever with her. That night, Google flew to a very tall tower to watch the moon. He doesn't understand why the atmosphere is so quiet today. On the other side, Johi is sitting on the beach to relieve her sorrow. She remembers the beautiful memories with her biological parents, who both left her 20 years ago. When she was tipsy, she called a driving service to take her home. A moment later, a guy came to pick her up. Sitting in the car, Johi felt that something was wrong. Behind him there was a very large scar in the neck. On the app, the driver she ordered is on the opposite side of the road. He was strangled to death by someone. Immediately after that, she asked him who told him to come here. Then he stopped the car on a deserted road. He immediately gagged Johi with a drug-soaked towel. After struggling for a bit, she pretended to faint. When he let go, Johi fought back and ran out of the car. After running for a while, Johi saw Google's blurry figure. She wondered why he was here. Two streams of thought began to form in her mind, whether he was an accomplice or someone who came here to help her. But in the end, she ran to Google to ask for help. Here he promised to help if she agreed to sign a contract with him. Johi immediately nodded in agreement because the guy was very close with a sharp knife in his hand. Immediately after that, she ran away, leaving Google to deal with it. She sat in her car and closed the door tightly. At the same time, the iron of the assassin was thrown straight into her car by Google. Johi looked extremely panicked, so she abandoned the car and ran away, hiding behind the railing across the road. Google slowly came over and reached out to help her climb up. The moment they touched each other, the tattoo on his hand suddenly lit up. At the same time, the iron assassin drove straight towards the two of them. Google snapped his fingers to stop the car, but it was no longer effective. Johi was startled and fell into the sea, and he jumped in after her. At this moment, Google gradually lost consciousness and Johi did not. Seeing Google slowly sinking to the bottom, she had to turn back. Johi tried to bring Google up with her, but her strength was limited. She swam up, but it was impossible. At that moment, Google's tattoo suddenly disappeared and moved to Johi's wrist. She ran out of strength and let go of his hand, then slowly sank into unconsciousness. When Johi woke up, she was on the shore and Google was in front of her, and he still didn't understand why his tattoo had disappeared. He checked Johi's wrist and it was there. The tattoo flared up, causing Johi to faint. When she woke up, she was in the hospital. She thought it was all a nightmare, but seeing Google next to her made her even more confused. Her secretary revealed to Johi that she had been sleeping soundly here for 5 hours, and Google showed concern, which surprised her. But when her secretary left, his act also ended. He returned to his usual cold attitude. Here, she asked him if he had caught the culprit last night. He said that he would catch him soon. At the same time, he also wondered if there was anything wrong with her body. Johi thought she was fine. Then she panicked when she saw a cross tattoo on her hand. She thought it was a snake, so she tried to rub it off but couldn't. Johi wanted to get rid of it immediately, but Google stopped her. She asked him to let go of her hand, but Google insisted on not doing so. Johi then attacked him, but he used his superpowers to stop her. Google let go of her hand, and the tattoo suddenly turned off and Johi gave him a powerful smack. It seemed that his power had all been transferred to Johi. He only has that power when he touches her. Back at the company, Google called his secretary to investigate more about Johi, from her family, blood type, love history to her hobbies. His secretary wondered who she was that made Google so interested. At the same time, he also discovered that the tattoo on Google's hand had disappeared. Google tried to avoid this and didn't want to reveal it to anyone. To test Google, the secretary threw a water bottle at his face. But Google has now lost all his superpowers. At this point, the secretary also realized that Google had lost all his superpowers. The secretary also knew that the superpower was now in that Johi's body. But Google thought that he only temporarily lent it to her. On this side, Johi also felt strange about Google. She didn't understand why the two of them met so coincidentally. She was also wondering about the contract that he mentioned. It sounded like it was disadvantageous to her company. On the other side, the killer returned to his dark room and removed his creepy mask. Around the room were pictures of the girls he was targeting. Just then there was a knock on the door outside. The landlord came just to see his face, because he had been staying for months but he had never met him. He asked him if it was blood on his hands, but he immediately denied it. Afraid of being exposed, he lied that the ceiling was tickling and wanted him to come in and see. It seems that he dealt with him after closing the door tightly. After Johi took her mother home, she had something she wanted to ask. She hesitated for a long time but didn't dare to say it. A moment later, Johi asked her mother if she was hiding something from her. She immediately shook her head and said no, but looking into her eyes, there must be something wrong. At the same time, Selhorn came in, interrupting Mrs. June's train of thought. This guy is a cousin calling Mrs. June aunt. He showed her the group's financial report for the past quarter. Besides, Johi also asked her mother for permission to go first. Instead, Selhorn offered to take her home. Seeing that the two were also a good match, Mrs. June asked the two why don't they just get together, because after all, the two are not blood-related. Johi felt that her mother was strange, so she quickly left. Sitting in the car, Selhorn's smile completely disappeared. I thought it would be romantic to take Johi home, but now there's another obstacle, Secretary de June. When hearing Johi mention the blind date she went to the other day, Selhorn was startled. His braking suddenly caused the secretary sitting next to him to have a nosebleed. On this side, Mrs. June went to the priest to confess. She is hiding something from Johi that she is afraid her daughter will not forgive her for. The priest advised her to reveal the truth soon and let it go for her own sake. Mrs. June also has a secret in her heart, so she hasn't dared to reveal it to Johi. That night, Johi arrived at the meeting point with Gugun, watching him come out in a dashing style that made her flutter again. She froze for a few seconds in front of this irresistible handsomeness. After regaining her composure, she asked him if he looked like he was facing something. She immediately took out money to pay for the previous meal as an apology. But Gugun refused it because he had too much money. Here he said that his body had no vitality and could not work. He tried to appear as a pitiful person to seduce Johi. Only you can heal my sequelae. Hearing this made Johi start to sympathize. On the way back, Johi said that she spent time with him out of conscience, not dating. Gugun didn't respond and asked her to show her hand with the tattoo. Grasping that hand, the superpower reappeared in him. Gugun drove the car like a rocket on the crowded streets as if there was no one there. He ran across a group of thugs and used his superpowers to knock down the leader. He immediately fell without a word of objection. Gugun then took Johi to a deserted place. Johi thought he was going to do that with her, so she was a little flustered. She would agree to give herself to him if it was in a more private place. She didn't want her first time to be in a public place like this. Gugun got out of the car and whispered in Johi's ear that, "I brought you here just to see the Han River." Immediately after that, Gugun pulled Johi down to the river. He wanted to do that to get back his lost superpowers. But when he touched her hand, nothing changed. She was too suffocated, so she kicked Gugun away, and he understood that doing this was useless. After just getting ashore, Johi immediately blamed Gugun because she almost died. He explained that he just wanted to confirm something. He didn't say it before because he thought she would refuse. After hearing this, Johi got angry and quietly left. On the way back, Johee learned that the head of the accounting department had passed away because he hanged himself in a public restroom, but it was actually caused by the killer. At that moment, a mysterious person splashed acid on Johee. Luckily, Gugun was there in time to shield her. His shirt is now burning to pieces. He grabs Johee's hand to absorb her superpower. Immediately, the shirt slowly heals back to its original state. Seeing this scene, she wants to know who Gugun really is. He says that he himself is demon, you humans are the devils. Sitting in the car, Gugun advises Johee to protect herself, because she is holding his precious tattoo. In contrast, Johee thinks he's just a devil. What's this about being a demon? He explains that devils are a noble species, existing to fulfill contracts with humans. That contract is to grant wishes to everyone. Johee knows that they are both in the same boat now, so she wants him to be her bodyguard, considering it as killing two birds with one stone because how can he live well without the tattoo? Gugun only wants to follow her to protect the tattoo. He definitely doesn't want to be known as a bodyguard for an ordinary person. On this side, the killer returns in anger. His plan is once again ruined. He is furious because of this Johee. Gugun tells everything to Secretary Bat. He objects to being Johee's bodyguard. He cannot lower himself to do that job. The secretary thinks that devils are bodyguards to protect humans anyway. At the same time, the secretary is worried that Johee will spread Gugun's identity everywhere. But Gugun thinks that she still doesn't believe he is a devil. He is also not sure if his superpower will disappear if Johee dies. At that moment, she sent him a message to announce that she had made an appointment to remove the tattoo. Johee is threatening him like that just to get on top of him. She is wondering why Gugun is always there at the right time to save her. At the same time, the TV station reported the death of the head of the accounting department. He was accused of embezzling private money, so he committed suicide. Immediately after that, Johee called her mother. She asked about the company's situation these days. She revealed to her that he had called her yesterday. He said he had valuable information to tell her. His sudden death made her feel unusual. Mrs. June advised her daughter to worry about her own company. Don't bother with nosy things to tire yourself out. Mrs. June then called Secretary John. She ordered to immediately handle the media about the accounting department head's suicide. At the same time, she also wanted to see the financial reports for the past 10 years, both the subsidiary and the parent company. The next morning, while Google was making coffee, his secretary smelled something like burnt meat. Google looked at his finger and suddenly it caught fire again. The two then blew it out, but they couldn't. Secretary Bat came in and was also startled by this scene. She immediately splashed water on Google's finger to temporarily turn it off. Google couldn't understand why it was like that anymore. He immediately called Secretary Bat and wanted to meet her. He wanted to make a contract right now. Immediately after that, Google took Secretary Bat to the pediatric hospital. Inside there was a mother crying because her daughter's condition was getting worse. Here he introduced himself as a devil and wanted to make a contract with her. He will make the child healthy for the next 10 years. Seeing the child having difficulty breathing, Google snapped his fingers. Immediately the child breathed normally again and the heart rate was also stable. Seeing this scene, the mother truly believed what Google said. But in return, in 10 years, she will have to go to hell to exchange for her son's life. Google forced her to choose her decision immediately because time did not allow. The mother didn't think long and immediately agreed to that contract. As long as the girl lives healthily without any pain or sickness. Secretary Bat now understands why Google wanted to sign a contract so he wouldn't have to burn up. Google believes that there is nothing free in this world. He fulfills wishes for them in exchange for eternal life. Secretary Bat asks him again that if the child knew that their life was exchanged for from a loved one, would they still feel happy? Immediately after that, Secretary Bat felt annoyed and left. Returning to the company, Secretary Bat tells her assistant to arrange a personal bodyguard for her. Sitting in the car, Secretary Bat thinks about what the mother said in the hospital. This makes her remember her family again. Did her parents do the same thing so she could continue living? Just as she got out of the car, Google was already there with an umbrella in his hand. He came here to accept being Secretary Bat's personal bodyguard. Inside the company, Secretary Bat gave him a bunch of bodyguard skill books. He also diligently read it but wasn't sure if he understood anything. Google's handsomeness caused the whole office to riot. The men felt jealous while the women wished to date him once. After getting off work, Google also had to personally take Secretary Bat home. Sitting in the car, she called her mother, but she didn't pick up. Feeling that something was wrong, she told Google to turn the car back to her mother's house. Arriving at the house, she saw her mother lying collapsed outside the porch. She called her name many times but didn't see her wake up. She immediately turned to beg Google to save her. She will sign any contract. Google remained silent and said nothing because he couldn't help either. Secretary Bat hugged Ms. Kim June tightly, crying and screaming, "The person she trusted the most has now abandoned her." The next day, Ms. Kim June's funeral took place. Her biological children were all present. Meanwhile, Secretary Bat stood alone in a corner like an invisible person. She remembers the first day she met Ms. Kim June. That day was also John's biological parents' death anniversary. That was also the fateful moment she was adopted by Mrs. Kim June. Back to reality. Secretary Bat felt disgusted as this funeral was no different from a party. The visitors and Mrs. Kim June's two biological children didn't show a bit of grief. Secretary Bat went to the garden that her mother loved the most. She saw her image always present in this place. The place where Mrs. Kim June and she often planted trees and confided in each other about everything. Unlike her biological children, Secretary Bat was the person she trusted and loved the most. Looking at those images, she shed tears again. Just then, Mrs. Kim June's grandson came in, interrupting Secretary Bat's train of thought. Secretary Bat intended to smoke here, but he didn't allow it because Mrs. Kim June didn't like the smell of tobacco. He replied that wasn't she already dead. "Everything later will belong to my dad and me too." Secretary Bat intended to light a cigarette, but she immediately threw it away. The two then faced each other in a tense situation. Luckily, Google was present at the right time to calm them down, and Secretary Bat immediately left. Secretary Bat then revealed to Johi that, whenever she was in a bad mood, her mother would always hide in this greenhouse. She didn't understand at that time, but now it's different. She created it not only to protect the flowers and plants, but also to protect herself. She knew in advance that her children and grandchildren would be very happy when she passed away. She lived in loneliness her whole life until her last moments. Secretary Bat was really heartbroken that she couldn't say a last word to her. Between her and Mrs. Kim June, only beautiful memories remain now. Not long after that, the police came to the family to clarify Mrs. Kim June's death. They asked everyone if she had taken diclofenac before she died. Secretary Bat immediately denied it because she was allergic to this drug. But the police confirmed that there was this drug in her body. Mrs. Kim June's two children said that maybe the medical staff gave the wrong medicine. But for Secretary Bat, she sensed something unusual, because they didn't want the company's shares to lose value. June's eldest son, Sukmin, asked the police to conclude that she died of a heart attack. Sukmin wanted everyone to keep the secret about his mother's death. The daughter, Suin, also agreed to this, but Jane remained silent. Going outside, Jane revealed to everyone that June had been murdered, not due to a heart attack or medical accident. Hearing this shocked everyone. Jane knew that one of her children or grandchildren had done this. Sukmin ignored what Jane said. He immediately had the lawyer announce June's will at this moment. Jane didn't care about the inheritance, so she left. But when she heard her name in it, she stopped, while her biological children were shocked. June handed over the Mi-Ra Corporation to Jane alone, but on the condition that within 1 year after her death, Jane must register for marriage. If this condition is not met, all assets will be donated to the welfare fund. Sukmin and Suin immediately checked the will again, but it only contained the bad things she said about them. Jane also didn't understand why her mother made such a decision. She had never thought about inheritance even once in her life. Although she didn't want to, Jane had to follow her mother's wishes, because she wanted to expose the truth of the person behind it. Jana quietly walked towards Google. She hinted that she wanted to marry him at this moment, taking out the ring that June had entrusted to her before. After a bit of thought, Google said that he didn't like it. Jana felt too embarrassed, so she quietly left. Google also walked with her, but only as a bodyguard. Swan and Sukmin are trying to take back the Miza group, but they can't sue Johi because the will is too clear. Here, Sukmin remembers the story from 12 years ago, the day he drove drunk and killed someone. Even though he explained it to his mother, it didn't help Ms. June put her son in jail because she believed in living by the rules. Until now, Min Suk still harbors that resentment towards Ms. Jun. That night, Jo Hee revealed to Selhorn that she wanted to find the person behind it, the one who murdered Ms. Jun and is trying to assassinate her. Selhorn advises her not to get involved in this because it's too dangerous, but she is already in danger. The sooner she finds the culprit, the safer she will be. She always blames herself for her mother's death. Here, Selhorn is curious about that guy Google. Why do you want to marry someone you've only met once? Jo Hee explains that he has saved her a few times. He can protect her more safely than anyone else. On the other side, Google tells Secretary Park everything. He thinks that human greed is bottomless, already wanting him to be a bodyguard and now wanting to get married too. Secretary Park advises Google to try it once in his life. Maybe when he gets involved in love, he will become a better person. But Google insists on saying no. He thinks that love is a trivial thing that humans create. Jana knows that Jo Hee proposed to Google today, so she aggressively walks in, holding a sword in her hand to ask Google about it. Just then, Jo Hee calls. She wants to meet him right now. Not long after that, Google arrived. The news that the Mi-RA Group heir was rejected is everywhere. Here, she wants to know why he did that. Google said that he is a bachelor, and he wonders why she chose him among so many people there. Jo Hee said that she was just acting impulsively at that time. She has no feelings for him. Even if he were the only man left in this world, she wouldn't want to marry him. Jo Hee left feeling frustrated. She was rejected twice in one day. Returning home, Jo Hee reviews the letter that Ms. Jun sent her before she died. When this letter reaches her, she knows she is no longer in this world. She is very sorry for abandoning her beloved adopted child alone. She hopes that her death will not cause Jo Hee too much pain and to keep moving forward. She hopes she will only shed tears once, because she still has to take over the position she left behind. She thinks her life is a failure because there are still rotten people lurking around her. The reason she wants Jo Hee to get married is because she knows how lonely that position is. She has experienced it and knows it well, and it is thanks to Jo Hee that she has been able to live strongly until now. Sitting alone, Google remembers his own memories. Before becoming a devil, he was a young master from hundreds of years ago. Google can't remember his past clearly, so he tells his secretary to investigate further into who he really was when he was human. The next day, Jo Hee and Google sit down to review the security camera footage from Ms. Jun's house, but they can't find anything suspicious. The best way at this point is to use superpowers to catch the killer. Who knows, maybe that will give them a clue about Ms. Jun's killer. But when he takes Jo Hee's hand, he can't find his location. His superpowers are still there, but he doesn't understand why he can't use them in this case. On the other side, the gangsters still haven't found Google. The leader is extremely angry about this. Just then, an employee walks in carrying fruit for dessert. On it is a letter containing a picture of Google and Jo Hee. That employee is none other than the killer. He wants to use the gang to easily get rid of Jo Hee. Here, Jo Hee is still diligently watching the camera footage in her mother's office. She realizes that someone has cut this tape. At the same time, Seol Han calls. He also didn't find anything in Chief Cha's computer. It's very clean and he thinks someone has touched it. Here, Seol Han wants to invite Jo Hee to dinner, but Google standing next to her stops them, because Jo Hee has an appointment with people in the company today. A moment later, they are both at the pub. Everyone feels a little embarrassed because they didn't think director Jo Hee would come. They just wanted to have a small party to welcome Google to the company. Jo Hee also feels that, so she's a little embarrassed. To break the tension, everyone starts joking around. Google wants to recharge, so he grabs Jo Hee's hand, startling her. The female employee sitting next to her bends down to pick something up and accidentally sees this scene. Jo Hee was afraid of being misunderstood, so she quickly brushed Google's hand away. After that action of Google, Jo Hee felt very angry. He asked her why she didn't let him recharge when there were so many people watching. Jo Hee didn't bother to explain and then left. After only a few steps, she said that she was a human with full of emotions, not a charger. But when she turned back, Google had disappeared. On the other side, he is also very angry and thinks that she is petty. At that moment, the gang showed up to block his way. One of them rushed in and hit Google. He quickly picked up a newspaper. He threatened them as if he still had superpowers, which made them a little scared. Google threw the newspaper at them and quickly ran away. Meanwhile, Jo Hee is still calling him but can't get through. Google ran for a while and then they blocked both ends. Because he no longer had superpowers, he was easily defeated. While they were about to finish him off, Jo-hee showed up just in time. She immediately took out pepper spray and sprayed it on their faces. Jo-hee quickly ran towards Google and held out her hand for him to hold. Superpowers returned to him, causing the wounds to gradually heal. Immediately after that, he and her danced the tango. They combined art and martial arts perfectly. Each one was easily defeated by both of them without breaking a sweat. In just a moment they dealt with all of them with just dances. The moment their eyes met made Google startled. It seemed that he had felt a little something called a flutter. They both quickly ran away from there when they heard the police siren. He coldly left without saying a word to Jo-hee. Google didn't understand why his heart was beating so fast at that time. This was the first time he had such strange feelings. Returning home, Jo-hee can't understand Google, he's hot and cold. She feels that not only is she fluttered, but he is too, so she has to go to Google's company to ask him about it. Going inside, Jo-hee stands and looks at the strange paintings on the wall. Just then she hears footsteps approaching. Jo-hee immediately takes out pepper spray for self-defense. On the other side, John-A is holding a sword pointed at her. Here, John-A immediately recognizes that this is Jo-hee. On the contrary, Jo-hee doesn't recognize John-A, a famous superstar in the art world. John-A demands her to get out of here immediately, but Jo-hee refuses to leave. Then she confidently walks into the room to find Google. Jo-hee sees a strange book, so she intends to take it down to have a look. Just then Google shows up to stop her. Looking at his well-built six-pack body makes Jo-hee unable to take her eyes off him. John-A's knock on the door interrupts her dark thoughts. John-A comes in and shows affection to Google, making him visibly uncomfortable. She does that to mark her territory for John-hee to see. After using provocative words, John-A leaves. Here, Jo-hee wonders why Google rushed to leave at that time. He says that he doesn't like being near her, but those words are going against what he is thinking in his head. Jo-hee feels annoyed at what Google said. She apologizes to him for bothering him and then leaves. Google then calls Secretary Park. He wants to make sure that Jo-hee gets home safely. That day, the MISA Group's interim chairman election meeting also took place. Suk-min is nominated for the position of interim chairman. There are 16 votes in favor and only 2 votes against. The 2 dissents are Jo-hee and Seo-han. With a much higher vote of approval, Suk-min is naturally the chosen one. He will take on this position until Jo-hee finds someone to marry. After the meeting, Swan finds Seo-han to checkmark. She thinks that Seo-han will regret choosing to side with Jo-hee, because Jo-hee is not qualified to be the chairman of this group. In response, Jo-hee will wait and see what Swan and Suk-min's next move will be. Gi-yeon also goes to provoke the tattoo on Jo-hee's hand. It seems that he knows something between her and Gugon. Soon after, Seo-han gives Jo-hee the group's financial report to see. There is something in this that Seo-han is very suspicious of. 2 years ago, the group spent a lot of money to buy a ship, but the legal entity that bought it has recently dissolved and it is not known where the ship is now. Soon after, Jo-hee and Gugon find a lawyer to ask about this, whether a criminal complaint will get the case investigated. But the lawyer thinks it's very difficult because solid evidence is needed. Next, they both go to the police station to ask about the killer's whereabouts. He specializes in using fake license plates so the police can't track him down. This sketch is not in the criminal data. Now the only way is for Jo-hee to stand out as bait to catch that bastard. To find someone to marry, Jo-hee is forced to diligently go on blind dates. This time, it's an extremely flamboyant prosecutor. Just seeing the 2 of them shake hands makes Gugon feel uncomfortable. Jo-hee also doesn't have much affection, but getting married at this time is very important to her. Gugon feels annoyed when he hears him talking, so he grabs Jo-hee's hand to get superpowers. The lobster on the plate suddenly clamps the prosecutor's nose. A moment later, Jo-hee offers to register her marriage with the prosecutor right now, and of course he can't refuse. Outside, Gugon asks Jo-hee if she intends to marry such a person. Jo-hee says that he is a prosecutor. She wants to use him to fight against those tycoons. Soon after, Jo-hee calls her secretary to prepare an article. She wants to have a wedding tomorrow. Hearing this made Gugon uncomfortable. He said that it was none of his business who she marries or divorces, but he didn't want her to put on that face for him to see. Gugon doesn't want her to marry someone who won't bring her happiness. To prevent this reckless marriage, he has to catch the killer. Immediately afterwards, the 2 of them go to the gang. Gugon takes out a picture of the killer and demands that they bring him here. But this guy is still stubborn and ignores what Gugon says. He even throws a bottle of wine at him, which makes him even more furious. Gugon uses his superpowers to control the things on the table. He intends to finish him off, but he tries to stop him. Luckily, he was able to save his life in the nick of time. Gugon turns to grab Johei's hand to deal with him, but she refuses to let him. At the same time, the boss manages to escape. Here, Gugon criticizes Johei for preventing him from avenging that bastard. At the same time, he says that he is in this state because of her. In response, Johei advises Gugon to stop. She won't bother him anymore. Gugon angrily leaves. Johei walks alone on the street. She remembers the moments when he came into her world. She thought Gugon was the person God appointed, but no. From now on, Johei will have to move on alone without that dedicated bodyguard anymore. Gugon then returns to watch Jonna rehearsing, but he's not in the mood to watch. Parting ways like that is something no one wants. Johei is taken home by her secretary, John. At the same time, the killer is also following Johei's every step. A moment later, she suddenly hears music in the living room. Feeling that something is wrong, Johei immediately grabs her pepper spray to protect herself. She quietly walks in to check, and the killer appears and drugs her. When Johei woke up, her body was hanging precariously outside the balcony. She panicked completely, while the killer was laughing gleefully as he witnessed this scene. He then cut one side of the rope, putting Johei in a precarious situation. Then he cut off part of the remaining rope to end her life. The killer heard footsteps, so he ran away. The rope could not bear the weight, so it slowly split in two. Luckily, Google arrived in time to grab Johei's hand. Before that, he felt something was wrong, so he went to her house. The killer had not left yet. He quietly approached and slashed at Google. The two then fell freely, but thanks to holding Johei's hand, he was transmitted with superpowers. Google used his body to land safely. Because she was still scared, Johei hugged him tightly. She cried like a child in her mother's arms. This scene was seen by Seol Han. Once again, he plays the role of someone who comes later. After regaining her composure, he felt a bit of the killer's psychology. He felt pleasure and happiness when he saw her fall into a state of fear. He doesn't simply just want to kill people, but also kill in a way that makes him feel satisfied. Johei then reviews the camera. She feels that this guy's face is not the same as the one who tried to harm her before, but after that he still has a scar. Here, Google realizes that he is always changing his face constantly. That's why he can't use his superpowers to find him. Immediately after that, Seol Han wants to talk privately with Google. Seol Han suspects that the two are hiding something from him, but Google doesn't want to reveal it. Seol Han really wants to know what Johei is facing, asking as someone on her side. Every time he sees Johei in pain or unhappy, he feels the same. Google advises Seol Han not to worry too much, because he is not the only one on Johei's side. Knowing that Johei living alone like that would be very dangerous, both Seol Han and Google offered to marry her. The two of them held out their hands, so Johei had the right to choose, but she didn't take anyone's hand. She needs more time to consider this important matter. The next morning, Google tells Secretary Park about proposing to Johei, which makes him bewildered. Secretary Park wants to know why Google changed his mind so quickly. Didn't he reject her last time? Google jokes that holding hands with a married person would be an affair. He wants to do it publicly, not secretly. Secretary Park is thinking about what a devil with a wife would be like. At the same time, he fears that if superstar Jonna finds out about this, the gates of hell will open. Seol Han is the first to start in the race to win Johei. Today he brings a vase of flowers as a gift for her. Both the giver and the receiver are doing this for the first time, so both can't help but laugh when they see each other. Outside, Google has witnessed everything and his heart is now burning like fire. He is also planning so that he can't lose to Seol Han. A colleague gives Google a book called 100 Million Ways to Conquer First Love. Google immediately reads it to learn more. He intends to bring some coffee packets to Johei when he runs into Seol Han. The two men then go outside to talk frankly. Seol Han is curious as to why Google rejected her before but now makes Johei's heart flutter. Google replies that he doesn't like getting married, but he didn't say he doesn't like her. Soon after, Google takes Jo-hee to attend the groundbreaking ceremony for the group's new project. Looking at the two uninvited guests makes Sukmin and Swan feel obviously uncomfortable. Jo-hee came here intending to provoke everyone, because she usually hates attending such flashy events. Here, Jo-hee reveals to Sukmin that she will get married tomorrow, which makes all the family members startled. It seems that she has chosen her partner. Going downstairs, Jo-hee sees a man with a scar on the back of his neck. Her mind panics and she can't stand still. At that moment, Google is present in time to reassure her. Just like what she said, the next day Jo-hee holds the wedding. While waiting, Ms. Jun's image appears. She followed her mother's will. Ms. Jun feels that this groom is really suitable for Jo-hee. She is very happy to see her daughter in this gorgeous wedding dress. Sukmin's whole family and his younger sister Swan are also present. They congratulate Jo-hee in front of her. But behind that there are other dark plots. Jo-hee steps onto the stage to the applause of the entire wedding hall. The groom chosen is none other than Google. Not long before that, Jo-hee had prepared a marriage contract for Google. They will play the role of a perfect couple in front of the public, but not when it's just the two of them. The end date of the contract is the day they both achieve their own goals. The groom and bride's families are extremely happy to see the two holding hands. Meanwhile, the members who are considered Jo-hee's family are extremely resentful. Outside, the press is gathering very crowded to hunt for her. Jo-hee immediately asks Google to play the role so the public can see it with their own eyes. But when they kiss, Google doesn't want this to happen. He uses his finger to prevent their lips from touching each other. Standing from afar, Selhorn feels inferior because he wasn't the one chosen. For Jo-hee, Selhorn is like an older brother in the family, even though they are not of the same blood. Meanwhile, the killer seems extremely angry. He promises himself that he will destroy this couple. Google then also moves into Jo-hee's house. His wife on paper is living so messily. He immediately grabbed Jo-hee's hand to use his superpowers, and in an instant the messy room automatically and magically tidied itself up. Over here, Selhorn wants to know how perfect Google is that Jo-hee chose him. He searches for the name Google and suddenly finds an article written about him back in 1977. This abnormality makes Selhorn feel even more suspicious about this Google guy. The more she thinks about it, the more Jo-hee feels suspicious of the kid Gion, Sukmin's only son. From the words or actions at Ms. Jun's funeral, she can't help but wonder. It is very possible that he is the one behind directing the assassin, including Ms. Jun's death. Google immediately used his superpowers to teleport both of them to Gion's place. Standing inside, they both heard him whisper that what's so scary about killing someone. The two then also took a taxi to follow Gion. He went to storage box number 17, where he often trades with the assassin. But inside was an empty box. Gion felt that someone was peeking at him. He slowly approached the place where Jo-hee and Google were standing. Google used his superpowers to teleport, but it didn't work. He immediately and quickly gave Jo-hee a real kiss to distract Gion. Luckily, he didn't recognize them. The two then followed Gion all the way home. Looking at Google's face at this moment, Jo-hee remembers the previous kiss, making her feel extremely embarrassed. On the other side, the assassin broke into Google's house. He placed a bug under his desk. Immediately after that, he saw a strange book on the shelf and took it with him. Meanwhile, Google has returned to Jo-hee's house. Today he wants to lie next to her, wants to hold her hand to recharge. The next morning when he woke up, Google felt full of life. He lay next to her for a long time to admire this beautiful face. It seems that his heart is fluttering for her, Jo-hee too. She is also having the same thoughts when standing in front of this charming devil. Jo-hee was startled when she heard the phone ring. Secretary Johnson tells her some bad news. Social media is now flooded with rumors that Jo-hee killed Ms. Jun, with the aim of taking over the position of chairman of the Misa Group. Jo-hee is convinced that the one spreading this rumor is none other than Sukmin. He did that only to usurp what she's holding. Not long after that, Jo-hee and Google find Sukmin to ask about this. Here he doesn't cover it up, but admits that he did spread that rumor. Jo-hee responds to Sukmin by bringing up the story of him driving drunk and killing someone. What's worth mentioning is that Ms. Jun let him sit in jail without trying to save her son. Hearing this makes Sukmin even angrier. He points the gun at Jo-hee and then shoots into the pillar behind to warn her. Immediately after that, they both find the person who spread the rumor. This guy admits to receiving a large amount of money to do that. Google learns that what he wants is money and fame, so Google helps him to get his wish. Google teleports all three to the state treasury. Before he could be happy about this pile of money, Joe-hee said that, in the morning when the bank opens, he will be arrested according to the law. Outside, Google receives a call from Secretary Park. His secret book has disappeared without a trace. Google doesn't understand why it's not here, because he remembers very well that after reading it, he put it back in the old place. That is the demon's user manual. The content talks about the origin of the demon, the effect of power, and also the limits of the demon. The conversation of the three people was heard by the killer. He immediately looked at the book that he had also taken. Inside it says about the limit of demons that they cannot kill living people and revive the dead. If he stubbornly interferes, he will spontaneously combust and then disappear. While Google and Joe-hee were preparing to return home, a large number of gangsters arrived. Because he didn't want any trouble, he planned to run away. But they knelt down together and wanted to recognize Google as their boss, which made both of them not understand what was happening. That night, after the killer grasped Google's weakness, he began to take action. As long as he kills Google, he himself will become a devil, something he has longed for a long time. At the same time, the police came to Joe-hee to arrest her, because she was a suspect in Ms. Jun's murder. Everything is going in the right direction that Sukmin has outlined. He confidently believes that everything with Joe-hee will end here. Google received the news that Joe-hee was arrested, so he ran to the police station. Going outside, he received a fatal stab from the killer. Google immediately collapsed in front of him. The killer slowly approached and pulled the knife out of his chest. He intended to take Google's heart out, but Secretary Park was there in time to stop him. Google saw his true face when the mask fell off. The killer panicked and ran away from there. This police officer knows very well that Joe-hee is not the culprit. But because of the pressure from his superiors, he was forced to comply. At the same time, Joe-hee received news that Google was being resuscitated in the hospital, which made her very panicked. She begged the police to let her see Google right now. Immediately afterwards, the cell phone took Joe-hee to the hospital. Seeing Joe-hee's face made John-a unable to stay calm. Joe-hee immediately ran to Google's side. She showed the tattoo for him to see. At this moment, the cell phone saw everything. Seeing that Google has no reaction, Joe-hee blames herself for arriving too late, but no. In just a moment, Google woke up again. Joe-hee was about to call the doctor, but he grabbed her hand. He wanted a hug from her more than anything at this moment. Jonna came in and witnessed those images. She immediately shed tears with a heart full of resentment. Selhorn brought Johnny back to the police station. But her face didn't show a trace of emotion. She understood what he was thinking. What Selhorn wanted wasn't an apology or thank you for him. Simply seeing her safe was enough. Thanks to the captain's help, Johnny could get out. She would be released the next morning due to lack of concrete evidence. In his dream, Google saw fire all around, then his body slowly burned up. He immediately woke up from that terrifying nightmare. He didn't know if it was just a dream or his future. At that moment, a delivery man brought many wreaths to Google, all of them made of chrysanthemums. This day's devotion came from the gangster group to respectfully offer to their boss outside. Everyone was present to protect Google like a head of state. Google came out to declare again that he was not their boss and not dead yet, so get rid of those wreaths. Google asked everyone not to come within 5 meters of him, so they all took out rulers to measure exactly 5 meters to protect their boss. At the same time, Joe-hee also came to visit Google. Everyone chanted in unison, Chi Dao Ra Dao, which surprised Secretary John. Seeing Joe-hee arrive, Google immediately jumped up. He tried to appear healthy so she wouldn't worry. He wanted to go home because the gangsters outside were too annoying for him. Being with Joe-hee was the treatment. Hearing this made both secretaries' hearts and balls drop. On the other side, Guillaume received a message from the killer. He was worried that Google had seen his real face. The killer was now very panicked. He was afraid that Google would come looking for him soon. When Google returned home, he grabbed Joe-hee's hand and refused to let go for him to charge faster. The contact area had to be larger. So they went from holding hands to hugging each other to sleep. At this point, the marriage contract was no longer important. The next morning, Google wanted to catch that killer because he had seen his face, but Joe-hee wanted him to stay home and rest to recover completely before considering it. After Joe-hee was exonerated in the death of Madame June, public opinion immediately reversed and sided with her. They really wanted to know who was behind the plot to discredit Joe-hee. At this point, no one could stop her from taking over the Mi-Ra group. That day, Jana met with Johi to talk. She thought Johi was taking advantage of Google and asked her to let him go. Because of her, he almost died. She should solve her own problems. Don't use the tattoo to make him a shield for you. Immediately afterwards, Jana went outside and hugged Google tightly. Seeing him so healthy made her feel relieved. Seeing this scene, Johi began to have conflicting thoughts in her mind. What Jana said really awakened her mind. That night, Johi thought about everything. She didn't know if she should continue fighting. She suddenly realized that Google had nothing to do with this war. But because of her, he almost died. But if she stops, it would be too unfair to Madame June. She would reappear and say that the dead don't know anything about fairness or unfairness. What Johi wants is not only about avenging Madame June, but also her previous family. She advises her not to lose her new family because of the family she lost. The last thing she advises Johi to do is to choose what is best for herself and for the people she loves. In the meeting to elect the chairman of MI-RA group, Selhorn was suddenly absent. Before the vote, Johi wanted to say a few words. Unexpectedly, she wanted to give up her candidacy. Hearing this surprised everyone in the hall. This means that Sukmin is the only candidate to vote for. After the vote, Sukmin wants to know what Johi is plotting. She said that she gave up because she didn't want everyone to fight each other. She hopes that everyone should call a truce right here. But Google doesn't think it's that simple. There must be a reason why Johi gave up, but he doesn't know that she gave up everything just for him. Google meets Selhorn to ask why Johi gave up. Selhorn angrily said it's all because of him. Hearing this made Google stunned. He immediately looked for Johi to ask for clarification. But when he got home, he couldn't find her, and she didn't answer his calls. Johi is now in Madame June's favorite garden. She is truly sorry to her mother for not being able to continue fighting. At the same time, Google came here. He wants her to continue fighting. Think about why she started and do it again. Johi said that the people she loves the most are all dead, and she doesn't want him to die because of her. Google said that he would ignore everything. Then he gave Johi a sweet kiss. The only thing he cares about right now is her. Not stopping there, they both continued into the house and indulged in passionate kisses. The surrounding space suddenly became unusually quiet. Only the sound of lips colliding could be heard, and I had no idea what the two did next. The very next morning, the two officially went on a date. This time Google didn't book the whole restaurant anymore. He liked the feeling of eating in such a lively atmosphere. All day long, the two were wrapped up in each other without caring about the outside world. They enjoyed this moment like any other couple in love. That day Google went to the police station to sketch out the real face of the killer. After a while, his face was perfectly revealed. On the other side, after having the portrait of the killer, the gangsters hunted him down everywhere. They went all over the city to ask people about his whereabouts. On this side, the killer is chatting with a mysterious person through a chat room. The mysterious person advises him to eliminate the grass, then eliminate the roots. The police have now found out the identity of the killer. He used to be in and out of prison. His name is Dikong Chun. At the same time, the killer is returning to his secret room with 2 cans of gasoline in his hand. He wants to burn everything to run away. Just then, Suk Min suddenly appeared. He immediately strangled the killer. While the killer was about to die, Suk Min let him go. He then went outside, locked the door, poured gasoline and set it on fire. Suk Min burned everything and the killer in it. He smiled excitedly as he witnessed this scene. Returning home, Suk Min burned his gloves. He remembered Madame June. It was Suk Min who attacked her. The next morning, the police immediately issued an arrest warrant and went to the killer's hideout. But the area is now burnt to the ground, nothing left. Under the floor is his charred body. But unexpectedly there was a knife stabbed in the killer's chest. Both Google and Johi received this news. The police confirmed that he died in a fire, but there were signs of impact beforehand. Google looked at that knife and remembered the day he was stabbed by him. It seemed like he realized something unusual. Google immediately returned to his office to check everything. He discovered a listening device under his desk. Google thought that the killer died because he had seen his face. There must be someone behind him manipulating him to do these things. On this side, Suk Min's wife saw the gloves in the fireplace. She was thinking about something when Suk Min came in. She quietly left as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Google saw the clocks suddenly stop moving again. He didn't understand why, but his intuition told him it was a bad omen. Google went to the children's hospital and the baby he once used a contract to save did not make it. His condition is now worsening. Suddenly, all the contracts from the past to the present floated in the air. One by one slowly burned into ashes. Google then went to the homeless woman. He was sure that she knew him very well. He wanted to know what was going on. She then took Google to a bar in the city. It seemed like she was a regular at this bar. Everyone from the staff to the patrons greeted her politely. In Google's eyes, she was a homeless person. But in the eyes of everyone here, she was a luxurious and noble lady. She used superpowers to take Google from one place to another, from hot summer to cold winter. She was the one who gave that superpower to Google, and she was God. Here, Google wants her to return the superpower to him, but she can't because she didn't take it away. When the power is no longer suitable for the body, it will gradually weaken and disappear. In other words, Google is also slowly dying. If he wants to regain his superpowers, the only way is for Johi to die. And if she manages to survive until the night of the full moon, then the tattoo will disappear and Google will automatically burst into flames. On this side, John A. reveals to Selhorn that Google is the devil. Hearing this shocks him greatly. John A. says that Google is seducing Johi and will conquer her heart. The tattoo on Johi's hand is the source of the demon's power. It seems that John A. is trying to use this method to borrow Selhorn's hand to prevent the two from being together. While sitting and enjoying the breeze, Google asks Johi, "If this earth is destroyed tomorrow, what will you do?" Johi says calmly that she will stay at home with him all day, doing nothing, sleeping in and having fun in Voji. That is the best thing to be able to resist the joke of fate. All she wants to do with Google if there is only one day left. Immediately after, Google wants both of them to stay up all night. He doesn't want to waste a second by the side of the person he loves. Johi happily agrees and has no idea the dark days are coming. The two then watch a movie together and she falls asleep without knowing when. At this moment, Google dares to tell the truth. What he fears most at this moment is losing Johi. What will this world be like to him if she is no longer there? After taking Johi to bed, he quietly goes to see Ms. Vojaku. He is here to give her the answer. Google will not give up on anyone. He wants to choose for both him and Johi to live. She thinks there is no way because that is the rule. Getting this means losing that, but he still wants to struggle as much as possible. He is sure that will happen, and wants to bet with her on the fate of the two. Immediately after, they both went to Soc Beach. The two sat next to each other and watched the sea. Here, Johi promised that after he returned safely, she would make him a delicious birthday cake. They both remembered the moments together. From the night he lost his tattoo right here, to the moments they overcame fate's joke. They sat like that until it turned dark. When the moonlight appeared, it was time for Google to decide his grim fate. On this side, Guion is secretly following Google and Johi. On his hand is a gruesome wound. Johi received a call from Selhorn. He knew everything and knew that she was in danger. Selhorn advised Johi to stop because he and John A. were coming there soon. But she ignored what he said. Just as she hung up, Guion on the opposite side was driving straight towards her. Google and Selhorn immediately ran there, but the car exploded. Despite John as prevention, Google was determined to go inside. Seeing the fire, he remembered the haunting memories, the scene of him slowly burning to ashes in his dreams. Before Google could get to Johi, the room began to collapse. They both fainted in the devastated fire. A moment later, Google woke up. He tried his best to get to Johi. He took her hand and his superpowers returned to him. Google carried Johi and slowly walked out in the smoke and fire, making Selhorn and John stunned. At this moment, Johi woke up again. At the same time, both the tattoo and the superpowers returned to Google. The next morning, he felt extremely refreshed. When he returned to his original life. But loving and cherishing Johi will never change. Google secretly thanks God because she is still by his side. He almost lost her forever. Then the two went to see Ms. Vosaku. He brought Johi here to prove to her that there is nothing he can't change. Even the fate of him and Johi that God has arranged. Google gives her a coin even though he was the winner in the bet the day before. On the other side, Sukmin knows that the plan to destroy both of them has failed. He must be planning for the dark plots to come. Immediately after that, Google reveals to Jo-hee that he remembers a little bit about his memories. He once loved a girl named Ushim. He only mentioned that and didn't want to say more about the memories that caused him the most pain. But for Jo-hee, she is feeling jealous of that girl. Google then went to see Mrs. Vosaku. Here she says that his fate will also repeat like his old memories, and he will also make the girl he loves suffer. Hearing this makes Google furious. He really doesn't want that to happen. But that is the fate that Google created himself, and he is only paying the price for what he did in his previous life. On this side, say Veo goes to meet her son in prison. She wants Gion to endure for a while longer and then dad will get you out. He laughed because his mother understood everything about his father, but still turned a blind eye. He calls his mother a devil, but she immediately denies it. Say Ra thinks that the reason her son is being punished like this is because he didn't listen to his father. He deserves to be punished. Hearing this makes Gion unable to keep his composure. He screams madly until the warden pulls him outside. Not long after that, Jo-hee received news that Gion had committed suicide in prison, which left her in shock. Everyone is present at Gion's funeral. Looking at Sukmin's tears, say Ra's wife seems to be resenting something. She goes to the bathroom to wash her face. On her wrist there is a very large scar that has only recently appeared. On this side, Sukmin apologizes to Jo-hee for his son's actions, promising to do everything he can to compensate her. Sukmin believes Gion committed suicide because he couldn't bear the sins he had committed, and he shamelessly asks Jo-hee to keep this a secret for the sake of the company's reputation. Even at this point, Sukmin is still worried about the company, leaving Jo-hee speechless. At the same time, Soo-in also stumbles forward to criticize Sukmin, because his son killed Madam Kim, not because she died of a heart attack. On the way back, Jo-hee can't help but suspect Sukmin. He must have known very well about Gion's actions. Immediately after, they both go to see Madam Kim Jun. Jo-hee believes everything is over. The person who deserved to pay has already left. She wonders if time will heal everything. Google, standing next to her, chooses to remain silent, because he understands that even as time passes, painful memories will always remain. They only heal temporarily but cannot disappear. That night, Google and Jo-hee go to see Janae perform. Watching such a sword dance makes him remember Ushim again. There were beautiful memories when he was with her, but mixed with them are painful memories that he has tried to forget all this time. Google's eyes fill with tears when he thinks of her. Sitting next to him, Jo-hee wonders about his mood at this moment. Here, Google reveals everything to her, that when he was still human, he used to kill many people. The reason was because they used the person he loved as a sacrifice. Google blames himself. If he hadn't fallen in love with her, none of this would have happened. Now he is afraid that he will cause Jo-hee to be unhappy, but she believes that she was unhappy before they even met. She wants them to be unhappy together. Hearing this makes Google freeze for a moment. Then he tightly grabs Jo-hee's hand. He wants to overcome this unhappiness with the person he loves, wanting to change the fate that God has destined for both of them. On the other side of the church, the priest is begging him to repel the demons that exist in this world. He remembers what Madame June once came here to repent. Years ago, she was also present at the scene of Jo-hee's father's accident. At that time, she really saw a demon, and that was Gugun. It seems that this accident was part of the contract that Jo-hee's father signed with Gugun. He came here to end this contract. Surely the condition he offered must be related to his daughter's life. In her past, Madame June also had mistakes. That's why she turned to God to repent for the things she had done. Back to reality, Google tells Jo-hee about his fate when he was human. After Ushim died, he also ended his life. Now he doesn't want that to happen to Jo-hee. He wants to create a truly happy ending. Google uses superpowers to turn off all the lights here, then creates a beautiful scene with fireflies. He wants to bring Jo-hee joy and won't let her be unhappy. The next morning, Google meets Ms. Vojaku. He wants to hear her advice on how his and Jo-hee's fate won't repeat itself like in the past. Obviously, she has no way. She believes that unhappiness is part of life. Unhappiness is the premise of happiness later on. That day, while going to the company, Jo-hee sees a traffic accident on the road. Seeing this scene reminds her of her family's accident. Until Google interrupts that thought, she calms down again. Google knows that Jo-hee remembers the painful memories of her family, so he meets Selhorn to share about this. Selhorn thinks that she always feels self-blame after her parents' departure. The short time with her family is what she feels happiest about. Unhappiness comes when happiness is sublimating. That is the reason why Jo-hee feels afraid of happiness. Before moving in with Madam Kim Jun, Jo-hee used to live with different relatives, but they just saw her as a burden. The one who healed her wounds was Madam Kim Jun, but then she also passed away. It seems that the wounds from the past have reappeared. The search for the culprit who caused the accident with her family still makes Jo-hee struggle in her heart. On this side, Ra remembers her conversation with her son, but that image haunts her. She has had to take sedatives for the past few days. Seeing the wound on her hand, she scratches at it as if she is gradually tearing herself apart. That night, seeing Jo-hee working so hard that she fell asleep, Google uses his superpowers to enter her dream. In the dark night, Jo-hee is looking for her parents. Google appears to comfort her to some extent. He helps Jo-hee to see her loved ones again. An image of her parents and Madam Kim Jun decorating for Christmas. They all recognize her with bright smiles on their faces. Google also prepares a cake for her and her family. Just like that, everyone gathers together. Warm and happy images from the past that Jo-hee once lost. That's all that Google can do. He wants to heal the wounds of the past. Wants to see Jo-hee happy even if it's just a dream. Jana now knows about Google's past life. She fully understands that she will never get his heart. She came here to say goodbye to Google. She will leave this theater. Jana leaves not because of him, but for her own sake. On this side, Ra secretly opens Sukmin's safe. She takes all the confidential documents in it. Here she accidentally sees a book about demons. While she is skimming through it, Sukmin is already behind her. Ra is startled and drops the book in front of him. That night, Jo-hee and Google go to Sukmin's house for dinner. Here, Google saw the wound on Ra's hand, and he seemed to sense something unusual. Sukmin wants everyone in the family to reconcile and put aside the past conflicts. But for Jo-hee, it's not that easy. Sukmin asks Suin to apologize to Jo-hee. She does so, but doesn't seem sincere at all. The main purpose for Sukmin preparing this dinner is that he wants everyone to transfer their shares to him. Everyone is stunned by what Sukmin said, and of course no one wants to do that. Jo-hee immediately gets up to prepare to leave. She also doesn't forget to ask him if he didn't know about Gyeon's actions or if he knew but turned a blind eye. Looking at his actions, he doesn't seem like someone who just lost his mother and eldest son. Selhorn is the same. He also quietly leaves without saying a word. The very next morning, Sukmin immediately plans to eliminate those who oppose him. The first person he targets is Selhorn. Sukmin uses his position as chairman to dismiss Selhorn from his role as director, which leaves him stunned. Selhorn immediately tells Jo-hee about this, and she immediately goes to Sukmin to ask about it. Sukmin wants to destroy everything that Madam Jun built. He wants to create a world of his own. Sukmin compares himself to a little bird, breaking out of its eggshell to escape to the outside. Hearing these words reminds Jo-hee of the mysterious person who sent a message to Gyeon. A message with the exact same phrase. The young bird struggles to escape from the egg. Anyone who wants to be born must first destroy the world, and that world is Madam Kim Jun. Here, she also learned that the person who killed her was Sukmin, but he thought that Madam Kim Jun deserved to die. She blamed all her sins on him. Sukmin also revealed to Jo-hee about her family's accident. He said that it was Madam Kim Jun who caused it. To prove this, Sukmin played Jo-hee an audio recording. Inside was a conversation between her and Jo-hee's father. That year, Jo-hee's father promised to expose all the company's wrongdoings, which made Madam Kim Jun very angry. The two had a fierce argument, then Jo-hee's father left. Sukmin said that Madam Kim Jun flew into a rage and chased after her father's car, and everyone knows what happened after that. She loved Jo-hee all this time just to exchange for a ticket to heaven. Jo-hee thinks that what Sukmin said was all lies. On the other side, Google meets Ra after discovering an unusual wound on her hand. Here she revealed everything about Sukmin. He was the one who murdered Madam Kim Jun and her son Gyeon. That bastard is evil. At the same time, Sukmin was strangling Jo-hee, making it difficult for her to breathe. She picked up a pen and stabbed back, but this made him even more regretful. Jo-hee couldn't resist and gradually lost consciousness. Luckily, Google arrived in time. He lifted Sukmin up to the frame together, hearing strange noises. His people broke down the door and ran in, but all three had disappeared like a shadow. Google teleports to his familiar clock tower. Even at this point, that bastard still doesn't know what fear is. Sukmin even challenges them both and claims that there is no evidence to convict him. But Google reveals to Sukmin that he has the Say Ra trump card in his hand. She is heading to the police station and she will expose all of Sukmin's crimes. Hearing this made him start to feel afraid. Here, Sukmin begs Google to make a deal with him. He trades his life to keep these secrets, while promising not to harm Johi anymore. But those words couldn't convince Google. With no other choice, Sukmin lets go of his hands to end his life. The TV station is also reporting on Sukmin's suicide jump. He was the one who murdered his mother to take over the position of Misa's chairman. He was the mastermind behind the embezzlement and fraud of huge sums of money. But strangely, Sukmin's body has not been found yet. That day, Saya returned the demon book to Google, where he wondered why Sukmin said Madame Kim Jun was the one who killed Johi's parents. Saya said that she didn't know anything about it either, because this was the first time she heard about it. On the other side, Johi is also thinking a lot about Sukmin's words. She looks for old articles about Madame Kim Jun from the past. Many years ago, there was a labor accident at Misa Electronics. Madame Kim Jun had to kneel to apologize in front of everyone. Seeing her using a cane makes Johi wonder. She immediately meets with Secretary Johnson to ask about this. Johnson said that she didn't use a cane before that. She only used it after Johi's parents' accident. The secretary also doesn't know the reason, only knows that Madame Kim Jun was ill at that time. Hearing this makes Johi even more suspicious of Madame Kim Jun. Johi now doesn't know what to do if Sukmin's words are true. She wonders if Madame Kim Jun has been lying to her all this time. But Google doesn't think so. He repeats the last message that she sent to Johi. She said that she loved her very much. Even in her most painful moment, she still tried to message Johi to show her affection. People often tell the truth when they are close to death. Immediately after that, Johi and Google went to the church that Madame Kim Jun often visited. Here, the priest wanted to talk to Johi privately. He told Johi everything about Madame Kim Jun. She had a secret that she had kept for many years. She told the priest that if Johi came here, he should tell her everything. That night, Madame Kim Jun flew into a rage at Johi's father when he dared to threaten to expose all the company's wrongdoings. After that, she drove to chase after them. Johi's father was driving very fast at that time to get home in time to celebrate his daughter's birthday, because if it passed to the next day, the term of his contract would end. But her father lost control of the steering wheel and then the tragic accident happened. Just a moment later, Google was present at the scene. At the same time, Johi called, but her father didn't have time to answer. He immediately ended the contract as they had promised. Madame Kim Jun witnessed everything at that time. She asked Google what exactly he was doing. Google didn't answer that question. Instead, he wanted to sign another contract with Madame Kim Jun. He would fulfill all her wishes, but 10 years later, she would have to trade her life. Madame Kim Jun was very scared at that time. She knew that the devil was in front of her. Immediately after that, the car of Johi's parents exploded, blowing her away. That's why she used a cane from then on. She always blamed herself. If she hadn't chased after Johi's parents' car, none of this would have happened. But it wasn't her fault. The fate of Johi's parents was arranged by Google's contract. Outside, Johi told Google that what Sukmin said was a lie. She still doesn't know that Google was the one who took her parents' lives. But for the priest, the look he gave Google was unusual. Coming back home, Google felt Johi was very strange after talking to the priest. So he went to him to ask about it. The priest knew who Google was, so he wasn't scared of what he did. Here, the priest advised Google to stay away from Johi, but he said that he didn't want to harm her. The priest also knew that the person Miss Kim Jun met that night was him. He was also the one who made a contract with Johi's father. Hearing what the priest said made Google stunned. He started to remember everything. Google teared up when he knew that he had contributed to the pain of the person he loved. The next morning, a woman came to Google. She returned the money to him and wanted to cancel the contract she signed 10 years ago. But once the pen is out, the chicken must die. Google can't spare her life with those pleas. Immediately, he ended her life because the due date had arrived. Standing inside, Johi witnessed everything. She was shocked when she saw Google's actions. Here, she also realized that these clocks were contracts. The names on it are people who made contracts with Google. She wondered if her father's name had also been here. Johi ran out of Google's office while she was still scared. Google called her name, but she didn't want to be near him. It seemed that Google felt Johi knew everything. He met the homeless woman to talk about this. He admitted that what she said before was right. If he stayed close to Johi, he would make her unhappy. Back in the office, Johi kept thinking about her family, mixed with images of her and Google. She wondered if she should continue to love him, but in the end, she decided to meet him. She seemed to want to put everything in the past behind her. She still wants to continue to be with Google. But Google is different. He wants to end this relationship. He can't be with Johi because it will make her suffer. Google silently leaves. When she turns back, he's nowhere to be found, leaving only tears on her face. In the days that followed, life returned to normal for Johi. On the outside, always trying to appear okay. But inside, she can't forget the image of Google. That day, Johi had to meet with a lawyer to talk about Sukhman's case. Coincidentally, this guy is the prosecutor she went on a blind date with last time. Ignoring what happened before, she wants him to investigate more about Sukhman's death. Johi feels that there are still many mysteries because his body has not been found yet. Meanwhile, Secretary Park is replacing the position that Google left behind. Before leaving, Google handed over everything here to him. He didn't say where he was going, but he will come back if Johi finds her own happiness. Google also left Secretary Park Johi's precious necklace. Secretary Park wonders if Johi will remember her old memories if she wears it. Just then, the gangsters came to see Google again, but knowing that their boss left without a reason makes everyone very sad. On this side, Selhorn brings food to Johi. Here he wonders why he hasn't seen Google these days. Johi says that the contract has expired, so he had to leave. From the beginning, the two only agreed to cooperate with each other. Now she has caught the culprit and he has also regained his tattoo. So the two of them no longer have anything to do with each other. Over the past few days, the police have been trying to find Sukhman's body, but to no avail. They don't have any leads from him. His wife, Sayra, fears that Sukhman is still alive and hiding somewhere. That's right, Sukhman is now hiding in a place that no one can find. On the other side, Johi returned to her cold room, missing Google. She began to remember that familiar figure again. When Johi fell asleep, Google appeared next to her. He did it every night so she could have a peaceful sleep. But then one day, Johi discovered something strange. The wound on her leg from the fall yesterday suddenly disappeared overnight. She wondered if Google had come here to help heal it. Immediately after that, she went to his office. Johi reviewed the demon user manual, and a photo of her and Google accidentally fell out. Johi looked at it, constantly thinking about him. The beautiful memories of the two of them kept appearing before her eyes. Johi choked up and couldn't say a word. Just then, Secretary Park was also present. Seeing Johi like this, he also teared up along with her. Immediately after that, he took out the cross necklace. He thought she would need it at this time. Every time she misses him, it will help her. After wearing that necklace, in her dream, Johi remembered her past life. No one else, she was Usham, Google's first love that he mentioned. In her previous life, she was a low-status courtesan. The men who came here to have fun often made her a joke. They even used harsh words to insult her. It was because of this that Johi thought about death many times back then. The day she went to the stream was not to practice sword dance or anything. She simply went there to end her life. But Google's presence at that time stopped her. In the days that followed, Johi still hadn't given up on her intention. But every time she went to the stream, she would see Google there from who knows when, and so Johi couldn't carry out her plan. After a few conversations, she started to like this guy. Then that love gradually blossomed from who knows when. But then the two couldn't have a happy ending. She and Google left this world one by one. Back to reality, Johi was stunned to learn that she was Usham in her previous life. She ran to the stream where she and Google had met many times. There, he was also reminiscing about the memories between the two. There hasn't been a day that he hasn't stood here. At the same time, Johi had just gotten into the car when she saw a strange gun next to her. Behind her, Sukhman immediately covered her mouth with a drug-soaked cloth. Immediately after, he took Johi to an abandoned construction site. When she woke up, she saw Sukman's scary face. He had destroyed his face so that Google couldn't find him. What Sukman wants now is to destroy the lives of Johi and Google. Immediately after, Sukman asked for some blood from her foot. He tortured her with the aim of luring Google here as well. While Sukman was about to kill Johi, Google arrived in time. He immediately used his superpowers to flick that bastard aside. After that, Google made this building shake. A large piece of concrete fell on Sukman. Johi kept begging Google to stop. She knew very well that if he killed Sukman at this moment, he would destroy himself. After freeing herself, Johi ran to hug Google. She really wanted him to stop. Without a moment's thought, Google flicked away the concrete on Sukman. Then he hugged her tightly in emotion, but things still didn't stop. Sukman slowly approached with a gun in his hand. He shot at Google, but Johi took that bullet for him. The moment he saw his loved one fall, Google couldn't keep calm. He immediately used his superpowers to burn Sukman's cruel face. Google screamed Johi's name in vain. What he feared most has now happened. He blames himself for always bringing her unhappiness. Google then begs God. He wants the grass to grant him special powers. Google places a final kiss on Johi's lips. This really works when she starts to wake up. Johi wonders if he just saved her, but Google says that he saved himself. Soon after, Google's body slowly bursts into flames. He gradually disappears from this world. Before Johi's tears of anguish, the homeless woman witnessed everything. She is really heartbroken to see Google choose that way again. Sukman was then arrested. His eyes can no longer see anything now, and his lips always utter nonsense. Over the past few days, Johi has always locked herself in her room, until Selhorn calls someone to break down the door to get in. Johi is now no different from a soulless person. She still can't believe that Google left her like that. She tells herself that she can't die at this moment, because her life was saved by him with great difficulty. Seeing Johi too haggard, Selhorn had to take her to the hospital. He really understands Johi's utterly painful mood. After her health improved, she went to the beach alone. She can't stop missing Google. Since he passed away, everything in Johi seems to have died with him. Here she wants Google to sign a contract with her. Her only wish now is to see him return. The homeless woman has always followed Johi's every step. She was really touched to hear her heartfelt words. In just a moment, Google returned to Johi's side. She still can't believe if this is real or just a dream. Johi immediately hugged him tightly. Google has returned. This is all real and not a dream. Returning home, the two confided in each other a lot. Johi feels the world is so scary without him. Google too, any place without Johi is hell for him. That very night, Google went to the homeless woman to say thank you. He knew that she was the one who helped him return. She said that it wasn't helping. It's simply that she registered a contract with Johi. Hearing this makes Google very worried. But she said that the price of the contract has been paid. That was the bet she lost to Google. At that time, he affirmed that he would regain his superpowers and keep Johi alive. He did those two things, and now she has to pay back what she lost. Knowing that Google has returned makes Secretary Park and John very happy. They both hugged him because they thought he was dead. That night, Johi wanted to know what the contract her father signed with Google was. Here he also told her everything. That year there was a multiple vehicle accident. The ambulance carrying Johi's mother to give birth also had an accident. Her father took her to a nearby hospital, but they didn't accept her, because there were so many people injured that there were no more beds. Johi's father had to take her to another hospital, but because of exhaustion, they both fell. At that moment, he could only scream for help in vain. At this moment, Google's figure appeared again. He explained to Johi's father about the contract if he signed it. He accepted all the conditions just to save Johi's mother and daughter. Google didn't tell this story sooner because he was afraid it would make Johi's heart feel more burdened. Google apologizes for making Johi unhappy, but she doesn't think so, because thanks to him, her family has truly lived happily for the next 10 years. The two then exchanged sweet kisses. The surrounding space was unusually quiet, with only the sound of lips touching each other. That day, Suan learned that Johi would take over as chairman, making her furious, so she went to Johi to ask about it. I thought Suan would do something terrible to Johi, but no, she turned to flatter Johi in every way, saying how much she cherishes their sisterhood all this time. or how she always sees Johee as family. But in the end, she was kicked out by Johee in shame. Johee then went to the prison to meet Sukmin, where he still maintained his arrogant face. Johee also revealed to Sukmin that Google had returned. No matter how hard he tries, he will never be able to ruin her life. In the prison cell, Sukmin kept babbling that he would kill Johee and Google. At that moment, Madame Kim Jun appeared before his eyes. Sukmin seemed to go crazy seeing her. But it was just the illusion of someone always living in fear. Saya is also preparing everything to move out of this haunted house. The thing she regrets the most is not being able to protect her son. She was too weak and helpless to stand up and resist her cruel husband. Meanwhile, Jean-A is also preparing to leave the theater. Google also came to say goodbye to her, the person he considers his younger sister. Returning to her hometown, she caught a child being abused by his father. This is no different from her case back then. Jean-A immediately reported this to the police, and she also left her phone number for the child. In case anything happens, call her anytime. On this side, Secretary Park and Secretary John also made their relationship public, thinking it would surprise everyone, but no, everyone in the company already knew about it. That day, all the shareholders were present for the annual financial report. Surprisingly, the person holding the position of chairman was Selhorn. Previously, Johee had actively given this position to him. She didn't want people to think she got there because of Madame Jun's will. That day, Johee met with Prosecutor Choi. Sukmin has now been sentenced to death. She is really relieved because he won't be able to harm anyone anymore. Over time, the prosecutor has also investigated more information. Before Madame Kim Jun passed away, she had terminal cancer. Hearing this made Johee surprised. Immediately after that, she went to visit her. It turns out that she always urged Johee to get married because of that. She was afraid that when she passed away, Johee would have no one by her side. Over time, Johee and Google are really happy being together. Because he is a demon, he can live for hundreds of years, but not Johee. Google is afraid that one day she will leave him in this world. Johee understands that, so she wants both of them to have the most meaningful time of their lives. In the days that followed, these two people were always clinging to each other. There are times when quarrels and petty annoyances occur, but one of them cannot live without the other. As the saying goes, there must be misfortune to have happiness. Two people have gone through many events, many sufferings, but in the end they belong to each other. Even though they have different destinies and different worlds, but they share a common heartbeat.